This week we are talking about the reality that we are called to be stewards, which means a steward is somebody who is entrusted the possessions and responsibility of somebody else. So we are being stewards in light of eternity. So God has given you certain possessions. God has given you certain money. God has given you certain time. God has given you certain relationships. God has given you certain connections and opportunities, but He's given them to you for a reason. He's given them to you because He trusts you to invest them wisely. And we're going to look at a passage today that's going to help us realize that salvation is secured through faith, but reward is secured through faithfulness. So we know that salvation is by faith. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 says, "By grace you are saved through faith, not of yourselves, it's the gift of God, not of works, so that nobody can boast." So our salvation is entirely a free gift, a work of God. But the reward that you will experience in the new heavens and new earth that we talked about in the last podcast is actually secured through faithfulness. There's a parable that Jesus tells in Luke chapter 19, starting in verse 11. And I'm going to read it. I'll have to skip some of it because it's a bit long. But starting in verse 12, Jesus says, "A nobleman went to a far country to receive himself a kingdom and then return. Calling 10 of his servants together, he gave them 10 minas." Now, a mina was 100 days' wages. So if he gave them 10 minas, he gave them 1,000 days' wages, like 3.5 years worth of salary. And he told them, "Engage in business till I come." Skipping down, verse 15, when he returned to his kingdom, receive his kingdom, he ordered his servants to come with the money called to him, that he might know how they had done their business. Verse 16, the first came before him and said, "Lord, your mina has made 10 minas more." So you gave me 1,000 days wages, and now I can give you 2,000 days wages, Lord. And he said, "Well done, good servant. Because you've been faithful in a very little, you shall have authority over 10 cities." And the second came and said, "Lord, your mina has made 5 minas." And he said to him, "And you're to be over 5 cities." Then another came saying, "Lord, here's your mina, which I kept laid in a handkerchief, for I was afraid of you, because you're a severe man, and you take what you do not deposit, and you reap what you do not sow." And I said, and so the master said, "I'll condemn you with your own words, you wicked servant. You knew I was a severe man, taking what I did not deposit, and reaping what I did not sow. Why then did you not put my money in a bank, and at my coming I might have collected it with interest?" And he said, "Take the mina from him and give it to the one who has 10 minas. And they said to him, "Lord, he has 10 minas. And I tell you that everyone who has, more will be given, but from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away." So there's a lot going on in this parable, but what I want to point out to you are a couple of things that really struck me. So Jesus is telling this parable to help people understand that as he's the nobleman, he's going away for a time, and there are servants, and he has entrusted his servants each with different amounts of, things. I'm just going to say things to be faithful with. Some he gave 10. I guess in this one, he gave them all 10. Now, it was 1,000 days wages. Now, to me, 1,000 days wages is a lot. But when he comes back, he says, "This was very little. Like, you were faithful with very little. So like, you give me 3.5 years of your money, I'm going to feel like that's a lot." But in the eyes of God, what we have is actually not a lot. It's a very little. But the faithfulness that you show with that very little, in this case, the guy was rewarded with becoming the ruler of 10 cities. So you were faithful with 3 years' salary, and you became the ruler of 10 cities. The one who was faithful with 3 years' salary and made 5 minas, he got to rule 5 cities. The interesting thing is, then you got this last guy, and he didn't squander the possession. He just did nothing with it at all. And he was chastised by his master. And what he has was given to one of the others. Now, what do we see that we need to take out of this? Remember, we're not talking about salvation here. None of these people earned their salvation. But their master gave them stuff. Their master gave them responsibility, and he gave them the equipment to be faithful. And then he left it on them to figure out how to be faithful. You know your master, you know what I like. I want you to figure it out and do it. And then he comes back and he expects that the servants are going to have been faithful. And then the reward is ridiculously lavish in comparison to just even the little bit of faithfulness that they showed. So what about you? What has God given you right now? Not like when you're, 20 years down the road or even 10 years down the road. What has God given you right now that you can be faithful with? Possession-wise, money-wise, what has God given you? Relationship-wise, who is God putting in your life? Time-wise, what kind of time do you have? How are you being faithful with it? Because what the Bible tells us, remember, there's a new heaven and new earth coming. And we will get to reign and rule with Jesus to the degree that we've been faithful with what he's given us here. Salvation is a free gift from God, but reward is secured through faithfulness with the time, talent, and treasure that you've been given. So I want to encourage you, ask God, Lord, show me what you've given me, and then help me and show me how I can be faithful with it. If you'll do that, you will reap the benefits for all of eternity, and that's my hope and prayer for you today.